The Dharma talk today has to do with the Dharma. What a concept, right? Not really, I'm not, no joke. It's like the path that we take as we incarnate into this reality, into this 3D material reality, looking like cause and effect and an external reality that is mistaken to be the real world. Whereas it's all an arising in consciousness. And so we are, one of the things that Robin and I have been doing together this year is looking at human design as a path to awakening. And in doing that, what we're looking at is what we in our incarnational choicefulness decided to have as attributes of this body-mind unit that would be operating in a 3D reality. The problem occurs, if there is one, the problem occurs when we confuse the idea of who we are with what we have. What we have is a body-mind unit with a particular set of gifts and limitations that make it possible for us to participate in a 3D reality. That's what we have. It's called the human design. It's called the vehicle. Who we are is the awake awareness that is operating through that. So if we did a kind of an analogy between a video game, say even one of the high-end virtual reality video games, but we know we are the player of the game, and we're in the Game Boy chair with the, they probably don't use joysticks anymore. This is really old, old technology, right? But whatever they use, we've got that console or whatever it is here. And we are navigating through this 3D reality that is the setting for this particular experience for the avatar, which is the body-mind unit. As we explore the reality and the connections and the possibilities in this magical kind of reality game, we start to have we come under the illusion that we are the avatar. So now the game player, the awake awareness that's sitting here in the Game Boy chair, the avatar just ran off without you, right? No, I'll be doing my own thing.
The boss here.
Yeah, yes. And so as we moved into that assertion that this is my world, this is my life, and I'm going to live it the way I want to, then we moved into a frequency that's underpinned without the connection, conscious connection to true nature, to the field, to our true talents, our true gifts, which are beyond any description compared to the limitation of this video game and our avatar in it. So the waking up is to get the distinction between who I am as the consciousness, the awake awareness, and what I have, which is the body-mind unit, and with its limitations. I think of it as the power of limits. We don't want to have unlimited abilities. We want to have specifics, talents, and gifts, and that's our human design. And through those limitations, we are more choiceful. We see things through a lens of possibility for that expression. The expression of, say, a gift of literature or art or personality. What do we call it? When we're trying to get other people to do things. That gift. Manipulation, leadership, right?
Manipulation.
Yeah, manipulation.
Influence.
Influence, yes. Yeah, so all of these gifts come and but what happens early on is that identified with the vehicle and then the limitation of whatever the wound that gets installed, it can happen very early. It may have been pre-incarnation, but we don't need to go there. So we start to have a limited idea about ourselves, and that conclusion, and this is what connects us to the 6 steps to freedom work. That conclusion about who I am gets repressed. I'm not good enough. I don't matter. That gets repressed, and then it creates a lens. As it's projected, it creates a lens through which we see reality. And now we are at the connection between quantum physics and what's going on in the Sangha here, and for many people around the planet, which is waking up to true nature, realizing that the way the world shows up for me depends upon the lens that I am viewing it through. As viewed, so appears. And so we are having some confirmation and some support for what we have in most of the spiritual communities over the 30 years that I've been involved in them. The idea of creating your own reality. Now we understand the dynamic of it. We understand the physics of it. We understand how it operates. And that understanding can give us the freedom to realize that just because I'm seeing something that's convincing, it may not be what's actually happening. And from that little bit of consideration, we can come home to ourselves, typically through the 6 steps to freedom work, which we all use. And there are other methods to do that with also. There is in human design a particular, what do we call it? What's it called? I'm talking about the gate 55. Gate. Really gate. No, it's an incident in the human design.
Oh, the 2027, are you talking about the?
I'm talking about the 1920s. We're back in history these days, Back to the Future. Where in 2027, there is an
Evolutionary shift.
yeah, that's based in a gate in the human design chart that's called the gate 55. And that will be a collective shift in consciousness. That shift in consciousness, they mark 1987, the harmonic convergence, as being a shift. We're all most of us were around and participated in some version of that shift.
When was that?
1987.
87.
And 1987 was when the information for the human design came in to play here in this reality. In 2012, there was another shift. I don't know, what do we name that one? There was a shift. We call it a shift.
The Maya calendar.
Oh, is that the?
Yeah, the Maya.
Yeah, and it correlated with the Mayan calendar,
Yeah.
but there was something in human design. And now in 2027, there is a fundamental shift that will portend a whole new consciousness incarnating. The gate 27 is something, I mean, the gate 55 is something that Robin can speak to much more accurately than I do. But the thing that interested me in learning about it was that the challenge of the gate 27.
You keep wanting to go to 27.
I want to go to 27. The gate 55, the challenge of it is victimization. The gift of it is freedom. And so I think that in that, what it portends for collective consciousness in 2027, that's why I want to say it. Right?
There you go.
And now I got the connection. The gate 55 in 2027 is going to shift out of victimization and into the potential for freedom. So that's what will open up all that we are collectively interested in, besides just the basics of the man, the job, and the money, and being happy. All that we're interested in is what we think of as the awakening. I believe everybody that's in this Sangha that's at the heart of of everything that we do together and in our own individual practice is that turn toward the sense of the truth of who I am, which is the awakened state. In 2027, when Gate 55 gets activated, and I think it's been active at the level of victimization, which is, what's that section called, the one lowest one? The challenge? The challenge for this in consciousness, which everybody has some version of in the chart, even though it might not be defined. Even though it might not be defined, everybody in this reality has some experience and some identity around being a victim. That's typical of every childhood wound I've ever run into, a feeling of impotence, a feeling of not having any impact, an experience of being at the mercy of, instead of being proactive, instead of being able to show up and express and have something and connect and then underpin a new possibility. So the Gate 55 is one that portends, and that's just 2 years away. That's the exciting thing, is that there is, and it shows up in this amazing work that came in 1987. It shows up as a collective, cosmic, energetic shift out of victimization and into the experience of freedom. So the work that we're doing as wounded identities, it has to do with finding our own sense of freedom from the limitation of our woundedness. And that comes through seeing that the way that we have created a reality where we experienced it as being a victim is that we perceived it, we viewed it as being against us or being a limitation. So that's the lens that got put in place with the early wounding. I suspect that, in fact, I'm sure, without using the same analogy, that there's a collective lens of victimization on this planet at this time, so that as each one of us handles our own version of it, our own version of our limitation of our woundedness, we've been participating in everything will be needed and will be uplifted and taken to its higher expression with this collective shift in 2027. So there's something big there to look forward to. In the meantime, everything that supports that we can all do together and individually is our own work on our own sense of victimization as we relieve that and move into the experience and the sense of freedom. And then I think that we are doing what we need to do in regard to this, and that we know this kind of esoteric could be secret knowledge from human design, even though there's a huge human design community around the planet. This particular piece is very powerful and universally impacting, which is, like all of these years, 87, 2012, and now 2027. It's not like it happens every day, but we're here. And we are all poised in a sense that of our own experience, of our own shifting out of victimization of our early wounding, that limitation, and into the full-on presence. I am here now, and I am functioning through this human design, this avatar, this vehicle, but I know myself as the awareness sitting in that Game Boy chair, right? The awareness is the one I am. What I have is this projected incarnational, amazing experience, right? The power of limits. That's what our human designs are, which gives us specificity in the way that we express and what we create and what our interests are. The awakened version of that will be your highest expression of them. So that's where we all are now. All of us on this call, we're using the 6 steps to freedom process to clear the lens of perception,
Can I just add something in here?
please.
So why we're talking about this today is that the sun is in gate 55.
Oh my God, you didn't tell me that.
So that's why we're talking about it today, for the next, until Saturday, Sunday, until Sunday. So this is called the gate of abundance. It's the gate of spirit. It's understanding that spirit is who we are. Spirit is the source of our supply. And the shadow part that Polly was talking about is that we think something external is going to give us what we want. Or we think we have to make sure we don't experience something out there so that we don't have to feel something we don't want to feel. Instead of understanding that we are the freedom, we are it. That is the victimization, is being in that polarity, is being in the connection to the external, rather than resting in ourselves as everything that we want to get from the external. I'm making sense, right? So it's like this gate is like the key to everything is this coming home out, extrapolating ourselves from the Indira's net, from this net of victimization that we're all caught in. That's the game, actually,
Yeah.
is to get out of that and come back. I mean, we say this all the time, but it's just interesting that it's reflected right now in human design, and that it's coming, this huge shift is coming.
On Sunday?
No, the huge shift is 2027, right? But the shift is from the Industrial Revolution time to this time. So all of AI, everything is we're really under construction, and we're feeling it already, the AI, all of that. It's
Right.
They call it the new human. The new human is being born, and we are tapping into another aspect of ourselves that is beyond the Game Boy identification. So
Yeah, the interesting thing about that, I was listening to that podcast you sent me about the gate 55. And what you just said about the Industrial Revolution, the way in which we've been materially engaged in creating and building, right? But now what's right at the edge of all of our consciousnesses, if not on our phones, is AI. So what that portends is that with the shift in the collective in 2027, we will return to the garden. Right?
Wow.
So that heaven on earth, heaven arises out of consciousness. Our consciousness shifts out of the need to work it, handle it, put it in place, hammer it down. When we shift out of that need for control, we're shifting into our connection with the creative potentiality in all of reality.
oneness, what they say is we're shifting back into oneness.
That's right.
Really understanding oneness.
I'm so sorry I got here late, but did you already talk about this big shift that's coming?
We're talking about,
We're talking about it right
This
now.
is like.
you're not too late.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's in human design, and it's a shift in the entire human design construct, and it's in 2027.
And something that's really interesting with Polly's work, that it's a shift from a tribal world where it's about agreements and fitting in to an individual world where we're coming home to ourselves and our own individuality
Our true nature.
above the tribal fitting in.
Oh.
As everybody is on their own behalf coming home to themselves, then we're totally available for the oneness that we keep trying to make happen by overlooking our wounds.
Yes.
So when you're on your own side and you're present in that way, which is what this portends, then that oneness comes from I am here now, authentically expressed and available for the matching frequency connections. And that's what will create the kind of community that we have aspired to. It never would work out with these agreements about saving the planet.
There's another piece I just want to bring in here is that, oh, Robert, there's somebody here that wants to.
Intrude.
He uses the analogy of the dragonfly for gate 55. The dragonfly lives horizontally underwater for 2 or 3 years, morphing in different ways, and then something clicks and it turns vertical and it starts crawling up a leaf or something. And then it completely, just like a caterpillar, completely dissolves its structure. So it's a predator here, shifts here, completely dissolves its structure, and is free, flies, develops wings, and it
It's an
flies.
amazing story of this particular insect that represents coming out of the muck. The name of the insect that it is, which I was really interested in, is the nymph. And I can remember my grandmother talking about when we would be down at the pond together, that the nymphs lived under there. I thought she meant some little creature, like playing a harp or something. But now I realize she was actually pointing to this particular stage in the dragonfly's life. So it's like this miracle transformation, and it certainly does, it certainly can have the experience of this, which all of us have probably had, if not totally, at least in being released from one pattern or another, where we just felt launched into freedom.
So Pali and Robin, it's Amora. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So just given what you said about the shift, the transformation happening in 2027, and the harmonic convergence, I believe, was in August when people gathered around and there was this big collective experience. But what I'm hearing you say is just going to be very individual. There won't be a big campaign for a positive future or any of that thing.
I don't know anything like that. I don't know what's gonna happen. We've been waiting for 2027 with human design for years, and now it's here. I don't know what kind of party there's gonna be.
Maybe we should just declare it and call it and get it going.
Yeah.
2 years isn't very long.
No, and it's, it's we are already in it. It's like any transit, we're already in it. We're all feeling like
Totally.
what is happening, right? This AI thing, it's like, what is the politics? It's like there is a dissolution of a structure.
Yeah.
And that was pretended in this prophecy of 2027. The structures that we have created are going to start dissolving. And think of the dragonfly in preparation for this freedom.
Right.
Also, think of what's happening in Washington, D.C. in terms of dissolution. What's going on in Washington?
Precisely.
Miraculous freedom.
Right.
Yes.
What were you saying, Paul?
Yeah, in that gene key, which is the gate 55, in every gene key, every gate, there is, what's the first one called? The challenge. The second one's called the gift, and the third one's called the city. This is the only gene key in which the gift and the city are the same. The city would be the highest possible expression of this particular gift. And it's the name of the gift and the city is freedom.
Oh.
And that's what is so enlivening about the potential for this shift in reality, the shift in consciousness, and it's what I suspect it's what most of us came, if I live long enough, came around to participate in this at this particular time, this cycle.
And there's an interesting piece in here because while the tribal we could say transactional, we could say tribal equals transactional, is falling apart, is undoing. We are doing this in community. Even though it's individual, there is a community, an understanding that we need to be around people who have the same frequency shifts that we're engaged in. So but it's individual, but it's community, and it's not transactional. I know.
It's a really exciting time and you can feel, I was gonna say the catalytic converter, but I think that's in automobiles. Never mind that. No, you can feel the catalyst of our connection without the old transactional aspect, right? It's like so free and generative and it's an amazing frequency.
But getting out of this identification with victimization, it's kind of like, the Chinese, you can't get out, you can't get out, you can't pull yourself out of it. It's almost like you have to go into it to liberate yourself from it. You have to go through the dissolution of that dragonfly. You can't just decide I'm going to do this from an intellectual place.
And there's where we get to whatever is limiting, anything that we're suffering with that looks like it's out there. I mean, and this is where Paul's book comes into such specificity, along with Robin's art that depicts it. As viewed, so appears. And that's the work of the 6 steps. That's what we want to get to, is what am I seeing? What am I seeing through? What kind of distortion field am I seeing this? And thereby, I mean, the distortion field, I used to say it's a lens, but I think it's more like contact lenses. It's like on your eyeballs, right? You can't see anything but that. And so anything that is not easy, that's not love, that's not peace, that's not the way we feel freedom and ease and connection, it's a trigger. Don't let anything get by you. It's all, I always think of my son Thad being on the Zoom call when he said, "Mom, I know you think triggers are gold, but I'm tired of them. I don't want any more." And I understand that, but we want all that we can have, all that might be at play, so that we can cleanse the lens of perception, so that distortion lens simply falls away and we see not through a glass darkly, but now face to face, now connected to the truth of the nature of reality, to the love that underpins all of creation.
Any thoughts, questions? Yeah, G.
Polly, it's interesting to talk about victimization because I could kind of summarize my story from yesterday, which was a complete example of victimization about the organizations I was having trouble with. I could retell that story.
Yeah.
So it's really appropriate to entertain concepts of victimization. I was dealing with 2 very large institutions yesterday and had to do with the sale of our house, so it felt like there was some pressure. And the 2 institutions were not really cooperating with each other in the way that I wanted. It was extremely complicated. I made phone call after phone call, email after email. And finally I resolved something with one and I was moving on to the other. And I was in this very elaborate phone tree, which was extremely confusing. Push this button. We'll get back to you in 4 or 5 days if you're lucky. Kind of a response on the phone tree. And I could just feel my tension and certainly a feeling of victimization, like here's these large dark forces that are out to get me. And so I was just starting to go into, it's almost like I did the 6 steps, like boom, 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 boom. And I realized first of all, what a familiar feeling it was in dealing with large organizations that were not doing exactly what I want, which is common for all of us, I think. And so there was this feeling of powerlessness and a feeling of anxiety and a feeling of fear. And I realized how many calls in how many institutions I've had the exact same feeling. So it's like I could list 1,000, whether it's a phone company or it's insurance or it's, a school, like whatever. So I kind of went, this could be about me.
Revelation.
Exactly.
And I said this in one of the other groups, I just relaxed and went, oh, I am having this really intense experience of all these different feelings, and obviously it goes back to, I mean, I didn't trace it back, but when I was born, I was very small. And the people around me were very large, and they were telling me what to do, and like all of that, I don't have specific memories, I'm just pretty sure that's what happened. And so, I sort of was projecting for me this powerlessness and anxiety onto this big mommy, big daddy thing, okay? And so in the middle of this, I was like a Pali moment. I went, I really don't know what's gonna happen on this phone call. And so after hearing, this thing, the phone machine, outgoing message did say, we're experiencing extreme call volume here, I mean, we make it back to you within the next 2 years. This really smart person picked up the phone about a minute later. And I explained this complicated situation, and she said, oh yeah, you're gonna have to go back to, square one on the other organization. And I said, well, did they give me the wrong information? And she goes, yeah, they gave you the wrong information. And I was like, oh no. And I just told her this whole thing. I said, I've been trying desperately to get this other organization to figure this out. And she goes, I can take care of you. And I just felt this like, oh, like, whew. So on the personal or the emotional level, it's like this huge feeling of relief, because somebody was actually like concerned and actually showed me how to work with company B and work with them in a way that excluded this other company. But more so, I felt like, because I took a deep breath and projected, like stopped projecting into the future what was going to happen. And I just went, and I did have a little visualization like, well, maybe this call will be great. How do I know that this is gonna be a replay of all these hundreds of other conversations? And so there were, I don't know what happened that she picked up the phone after I had the insight into myself. I mean, I don't know if I'm that powerful, but the fact was, in a way, it didn't matter. Because I was more open to whatever I was gonna experience with this person. And I'm getting this small feeling that these people are not out to get me.
No, they're getting me.
Yeah, she got me. So it was really a wonderful, I mean, when you think about victimization, like I can feel the part of myself that was collapsing into this really dark place of negativity. And this is just not gonna work. This is not gonna work. And my house is gonna burn down without insurance.
Jumping to the logical conclusions.
The only possibility. So it's wonderful you're talking about victimization, because I can feel that small, dark, frustrated, anxious. And it does feel very small and very young, because it's really difficult to be conscious when things are that uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. Yeah, that's such a great example.
Yeah, and I like the way that you say, Jill, how familiar it is. I was shocking. I was doing really good, and I traveled and I went through a lot of family and business meeting and a lot of people. And suddenly I was feeling that I was being victim of everybody. Everybody, everything. And Robert even make a comment when we got in Costa Rica, they pick up a taxi to go, I think it was in Saturday, a taxi to go to the airport, to the hotel. And they have a big stormy rain, and they have one road closed and the other blah, blah, blah. And you need to make a detour that you take an extra hour or maybe 2 extra hours. And we start to get frustrated, but we are inside of a very nice car with a driver that will take us to a nice hotel. What's the problem if take 1 hour extra? And Robert said something, I guess it was at that moment, he said, how easy is for us to go into victimization? And things that, I mean, wow, luxury life. We're in Costa Rica, we have a driver, we go to a hotel, the road is closed, he can find another one, I don't need even my GPS, but inside, suddenly I have all those feelings, oh, that's unfair, blah, 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 blah. And I noticed that like I was feeling a victim of everything and everybody. I thought that I was having a little nap this morning and I was crying in my nap how unhappy I was with my mom and the pet. It's just to show how familiar and even in dreams it come with things that happened 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for the reminder, but I know 2027 is right there, wait.
It's already begun.
It's already.
The one thing I do wanna say about 55, if you find yourself, it's until Saturday, or if you've seen it, there is melancholy in it.
Oh,
So there, if you find yourself falling into melancholy, it's part of the collective, it's the whole world is being showered with this energy. And the melancholy, if you stay in the witness of it rather than identify with it, there's like a creative doorway through it. But if you identify with it, you can get caught in a cesspool,
thank you for saying that. Yeah,
melancholy is part of the natural quality of this.
I just have so many clients right now who are experiencing some, as the whole government thing, and I need to name all the names. But client after client are just like really upset and powerless and scared and depressed. And especially in the last few days, I understand there's plenty to be upset about, but I get it now inside of this, what you're saying, the power of this huge shift has embodied in a certain way in these the great undoing, in our government with these big AI, tech heads running the whole thing. And so people feel really, they can get into melancholy. Yeah, so, I mean, it hasn't happened for me, but I just see how many are freaking about it, and it is the pressure of some change coming that we can't control, can't figure out, can't get a grip on.
Thank you for saying that.
People feel victimized by it.
Exactly. Just want to make sure that anybody on the Zoom room, I know we're having a lively chat here, but anybody on the Zoom room, if something is coming up for you or Robert, not exactly the Zoom room, but just put in the chat or raise your hand and I'll get you. Yeah, Robert.
So is there anything either new and different or repetitive the same? Is there basically, what can we do to be better today and as the next 2 or 3 years as we get into 27? What's the best thing for us to do these days?
What we're doing.
6 steps.
That's actually what we're doing.
Awareness, that
Coming
means you
home
say
to
your
ourselves.
awareness.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
that is the job. That is the only job here.
Max just said meditate.
Meditate, thank you.
There you go. Yeah.
But what the word that you said, Robin, is very powerful, is awareness. Because this morning I was so depressed, sad, what's the word that you, melancholy.
Melancholy, yeah.
And I remember my conversation with Tashina, what's the tools that I have in my hand, because I need work. And I was feeling like, the word was falling on my head. So I put those things under my tongue and the florals and did the short meditation, bring my awareness back. So, but 5 minutes later, it's gone again, and I was gone. But the thing is, the reminder for us to bring the awareness, every situation that's happened, be the observer instead of, thank you for the reminder, that's for
I
sure.
mean, it's what Paul Levy is saying, it's that
Yeah.
present, and what you keep saying, that present moment, right? Coming back to that present moment, that's all this stuff is future and past.
And all of it's in your mind. Only the present moment is here now. This is it. Whatever this
Yeah.
is, it's it.
Yeah.
If you're not in your mind about it, then you'll do what's in front of you to do. And, but if you're in your mind, you're gonna be pulled into reaction. And the reaction is a low frequency of fear, so it never bodes well for outcome.
Yeah.
Robert, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so can we do the 6 steps on melancholy?
Whose is it?
With that lady? Oh, I'm joking.
Well, I'm just, you said you feel melancholy, so I'm just asking, is that something that we can address with the 6 steps?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
It's Linda,
Yeah, so
I'm triggered.
I'm triggered. That's about me. And the feelings are sadness,
Mhm.
melancholy, overwhelming. Yeah, overwhelming, can't handle,
Mhm.
like too much energy. When it was the first time, let's see. I have a lot of those in my childhood, like I wasn't doing good enough, I doing something wrong and. um, Well, this energy permeates my entire childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was asking, I really just bring to this incarnation. I don't want to blame my parents anymore because I think it's even previous than my parents. I'm born premature, very small, very little, stay by myself at the hospital. It's like I brought this energy, not good enough.
Mhm.
When that's the, but I come here to go this lifetime. So, yeah,
Maybe
maybe,
the sadness
Yeah.
of feeling alone,
yeah,
which would be the early experience in the neonatal.
yeah, being alone and don't recognize anybody around me. Yeah, I felt I have those, on an emotional level, those memories that I was at the hospital and that the whole ambience, it was so hostile and overwhelming with noises and lights. That's like, oh. So, yeah, that is probably what's coming to me is like, no way that I can handle. I'm too small. It's like what you said, I'm too small. This world is too big. I have too many things to do. No way that I can get this right. So, and the conclusion that I got when it's happened is the conclusion that I will be sad because I cannot get that right.
Mhm.
And I won't be lovable because I'm too small and overwhelmed and not able to handle everything.
So your conclusion about yourself was
That I wasn't lovable,
not lovable.
not good enough.
Mhm. What does Dietrich say now?
I think I have even a conclusion that I didn't deserve peace.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Because of those bright lights and all that activity,
Yeah,
maybe.
peace and silent and yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. He would say, forgive myself for believing that I'm not good enough or I don't deserve peace. Um, I
Thank
think
God that's not true.
Thank God that's not true.
Yeah.
And I can say also, I forgive myself for believing that I'm not good enough, that I don't deserve peace. That I will never get peace. I forgive myself. Forgive me for forgot that I am the child of God, greatest image and perfection of the Creator of all it is.
Beautiful.
Now I remember who I am, and I am the awake awareness where the whole reality appears. And I like to see the image of myself, the awareness sit in front of that artesian well that you talk about.
Yes.
Was just mesmerized by the beauty of everything that's popping up and disappearing.
Right.
And just being the child of God in the garden of paradise, enjoying this experience.
That's it.
And fuck the big ones. You're part and you're welcome. Oh, it's good.
See, the way in which, and I think I've said this earlier today, but clearly I'm repeating myself. But the way in which the quantum physics correlates with this work with the 6 steps to freedom is that what you end up with after the conclusion that gets installed is this lens, which is the distortion field for how viewed so appears. So if that conclusion created that distortion lens, then the way you see the world is they're not here for me. Or it's too much, it's overwhelming. And so we create our reality by what we perceive. And we have total access to, through the technology of the 6 steps and other technologies, consciousness technologies, we see how we installed this lens through which we now, and we're convinced they really did treat me badly. Something really did happen. It really did mean something about me. And in that we create a world. We create a reality. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we take the lights and the sound of a hospital, NICU, to be personal,
Right.
like it's against us somehow, it's personal to us.
Being alone, be left there,
Mhm.
don't deserve home with mom and dad. Don't deserve to be fed breast because mom said, they sent mom home and now I stay with the machines, so.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, victim, don't deserve, too small, not good enough, blah, 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 yeah.
So I just checking with you, probably the way you see it, the installation happens at the moment we take it personally.
Right. The moment we have a conclusion about ourselves, which is taking it personally.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then we have, that's like, it's invisible to us. It is a lens. It is, I think of it as being the contact lenses. I used to think of it like a glasses, but now I know it's closer than that.
Because the glass you can see by your corners or it's
Yeah,
easy
you
to
might-
take off.
That's
But
right.
it was like those lenses that they implant in your eyes.
That's
like-
right. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
right. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. So there are many pointers to this. And then in the quantum revelation, his very concise 6 words, as viewed, so appears. Or is that 6?
That's 4.
Oh, boy, it's even more.
So it is.
So appears.
As viewed, so appears.
4 words.
So we have about 4 more minutes here before we go into meditation. Anybody on Zoom? I just really want to give a chance to, if there's a thought or a word or a
Contribution,
contribution, experience.
right? Any sharing.
Colleen is sitting up. See if
No.
she's gonna
Yeah,
unmute
Robert wants to
herself.
say-
Hi, Polly. Thank you for this talk. It's so amazing.
Who is this?
This is Colleen.
Oh, hi, Colleen.
Hi. So I'm realizing lately that I actually am unconsciously wanting to choose situations where I feel like a victim. So because there's something I've concluded that I feel safer that way, that if I am happy and joyful and lit up, that somehow I'm in danger. And yeah, I'm working on like what did I really about myself, getting some amazing insights. But I just wanted to share that little tidbit.
Yeah, so that's a really good tidbit, Colleen, because often children will have received benefit by considering themselves a victim. I mean, I can remember that when I had a sore throat or whatever, my mother would bring in tea with cream and sugar and buttered saltines. I mean, I was really willing to be sick most any time.
Right.
So, we start to get some goodies out of it. And even though because we can't see the bigger picture of how it's not truly beneficial, we develop patterns like that. I'm not sure that's a part of what's going on with you, but the insight that you're having is really important and really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colleen. And Robert, you said you had something else you wanted.
Couple things. One, the payoff, in my opinion, of being a victim is, one of the payoffs is you don't have to do anything. How can you expect me to do anything? I'm the victim here. I can't do anything. You saw it, I'm the victim.
I've got a broken leg. What
Yeah,
is-
yeah, I, for whatever the reason is,
Yeah,
and then. I think all of those conclusions that we come up with as a kid, for me, it's useful to think of those conclusions as self-identities.
mhm,
Uh, so. Let's. What seems useful to me at least.
right. Yeah, I do believe that they operate as identities. And in that sense, they're never considered. It's literally the sea we swim in.
Yeah,
It's like through, you know, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are, as we identify. And so it's like that lens and then it's never questioned. It seems so obvious and the experience of it is so consistent. Whether it's a victim or whatever conclusion was unlovable. And then, you know, I believe in hell, I can prove it. I can tell you 5 times just yesterday.
And if you believe that a victim, sometimes you're the perpetrator. And
Right.
now you have guilty and you never finish because you always play some of those roles or
That's right.
victim or perpetrator and that's, yeah. But that is interesting what you say that we don't see the world as it is, you see how we are. I just like to say that to myself, it's not like who I am, because who I am, I'm the awake awareness, but I see the world as that fake identity that
That's
my
right.
ego create for me to operate, that's not enough for real. And I can, from awake awareness, see that persona, that identity and say, oh, that's the way that you're thinking or seeing yourself. But the reality, in fact, is this. And that is just love and light. But need to be aware, need to have somebody home to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, people have the experience all the time of being in with a group, say, or walking through a room where there are the people. And then they believe that somebody looked at them funny and now they're depressed the rest of the day. Because they project onto that person what that look meant, when he actually just had something in his eye. You know, it's like, we have these elaborate kinds of stories because we're the main character.
Our ego loved that part.
That's right.
Okay, we're at the bottom of the hour. Thank you all so much.
So glad you all joined us.